Welcome to Epilogue Podcast, the show where we discuss some stuff that happened on a different show ages ago which nobody really cares about anymore.
Hi, I'm Portponky.
And I'm LeBloc.
Today, we're discussing Farscape Season 1, Episode 1, Premiere. After a space wobble, John Crichton is lost somewhere in space with a bunch of escaped alien prisoners. So, as this is the first episode of a new show for us, should probably reintroduce ourselves. I've seen lots of sci-fi stuff. I've seen Farscape before. But this podcast is spoiler-free, so I'm not going to say anything revealing. And what about you?
I have not seen many sci-fi things. That includes Farscape. I wasn't even aware it was really a show until you mentioned it to me. And that is going to change.
You're coming at it fresh, experiencing it for the first time. Hopefully our avid listeners can enjoy sharing that experience, and I'll be like some kind of wizard.
That's one way to think about it, sure.
Yep, that makes sense. Moving on, how did you find this premiere episode? What are your thoughts?
I was impressed, especially with the makeup and the puppetry. You don't see a whole lot of in-camera alien stuff. A lot of times when you have weird things happening, it's just CGI now. But I like seeing that little dude flying around. I haven't learned the names yet.
Rigel.
Yes, him. And Pilot, I believe, with
Pilot,
all the
yep.
arms. It was lovely to look at. So I enjoyed the whole episode.
It's made by the Jim Henson Company.
Ah, that makes so much sense.
They are pretty much at the forefront of that kind of modeling and puppetry stuff. But there was a lot of CG in this as well. It's kind of a mix. The CG looks fairly good, although it sticks out a little.
It's fine. It didn't distract.
This premiere episode had more CG shots than Independence Day, which was released only 3 years earlier.
Holy cow.
This isn't a cheap show.
That's one thing that kept running through my head, how expensive it looks. And I kept wondering how it got made because it's not a known property. I don't understand how someone signed off on this.
The show itself has quite a history in terms of production. And yeah, it was incredibly expensive. There was a lot of stuff they did to lessen the bill. One of the things which you maybe guessed from this episode is that it's shot in Australia.
I didn't guess that.
Okay, there's a disproportionate number of Australian people in it.
Oh, sure, but that doesn't mean it was filmed there.
No, I believe the Matrix did the same thing. A lot of that was shot in Australia as well. It's slightly cheaper to shoot things there compared to where do they always shoot in the United States? Vancouver or somewhere.
Oh, yeah. It's some Canadian city. I think it might be Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto, who knows?
But yeah, it's expensive. Not just some of the CGI shots, which still looked good. When John's standing on the planet and he's looking up at all the ships flying past, and he says, "I'm on an alien planet" or something. can't remember exactly what it says, but it still packs a punch. The CG still looks good enough that cityscape it gives you a good feeling, or at least it did for me anyway.
That's a good phrase. Good enough. I obviously wasn't impressed with the CGI given how old this is, but I didn't think it was bad, and it looked fine, especially when you consider when it aired.
The puppetry, on the other hand, is, I think, superb. Pilot looks incredible.
I missed a lot of Pilot's lines because I was busy just staring at the puppetry.
There was the shopkeeper guy with all the teeth and stuff. That was also pretty impressive, although it seemed less articulate. Is that the right word? Like less mobile than Pilot?
Yeah,
It still looked good though.
it looked fantastic. I wouldn't mind seeing this stuff in a show now.
Sci-fi has long had a history of aliens being people with stuff stuck to their faces. One certain long-running show uses this to excess. So it seems like they want to distance themselves from that idea.
The makeup looked way more involved, and looking at them, it made me wonder, how long did you have to sit in a chair and have that applied?
So we have the Luxon, Dargo. He's got all those tentacles and stuff. That looked pretty. Like yeah, he'd be in the chair for quite a few hours setting that up. But he wouldn't be setting up, obviously, makeup wise.
That obviously had a bunch of layers to it and looks involved, but even the blue lady,
Zan.
yes, those patterns weren't simple. It wasn't just a flat blue that was applied to her, and it was all over. Usually, when they do that sort of thing, it's just the head and maybe a little bit of the neck, and there was a lot more there, and it wasn't a plain coat.
The other classic sci-fi trick is you make them blue, but then give them like a big suit. So you just do the head and the hands.
Right.
But she's wearing a bunch of sort of semi-transparent kind of lace stuff as well. So it's all her arms and everything. Plus, she gets her kit off, so it's full body. There was a surprising amount of nudity in this episode.
Sure.
Well, did you think that, or do you even have an opinion?
That did not cross my mind.
Well, John gets naked as well.
He does, but people do that. People end up naked sometimes.
Well, yeah, that's true.
It did not strike me as odd or out of the ordinary.
I'm not going for anything here. Let's talk a little bit about the actual characters that we've seen so far. Who's your favorite? I don't know why you'd have a favorite already.
Yeah, I don't have a favorite already.
Yeah, it was a stupid question.
I like how they're brought together in opposition. They don't really want to be together, at least at this point. And it kind of happened against their wills, how Crichton kind of forced their hands, and now they're stuck together on the ship.
It's already dysfunctional.
Yeah, and it sets it apart from, we're a crew who all stick together and we're gonna do stuff.
It's kind of the opposite. None of them are on the same page.
Yeah.
Well, when John's walking to the sort of cargo bay room sort of thing, and Dargo threatens him, and then Aaron kind of threatens him, and then Rigel kind of threatens him.
I absolutely love that he killed that guy's brother completely by accident. and then that guy is out for revenge.
Grace.
Yes. And it was very Wizard of Oz, having the house slammed down on the witch.
With his white death pod.
Another bit I really liked was when he seizes the guard's gun and then he can't really use it properly. You never see, well, maybe you see it, but it's so rare to see someone use a weapon that's not known to them and they don't become a master of it right away. Like he's shooting all over the place, and it was great.
He's a terrible shot.
Yeah.
I thought that scene with the guards was pretty weak, though.
Why is that?
Grace appears with a whole army of guys, and then they send them into some random alleyway with just two guys who are your average rent-a-cop. It's forgivable because they had a lot to cover in this episode. And yeah, the basic plot point is they escape, and John forces them to take Aaron. So it got the job done. If I had to pick a weak bit of the episode, it was that, because it was kind of easy for them to escape.
Oh, I have a weak bit.
Yes.
When they escape the cell, presumably with the aid of the fork, they don't show it. We just know that it happened, and that's silly that they can escape a cell with a fork.
You just love prison escapes.
Yeah, I think I'm sad that I was robbed of a prison escape scene, and that I'm left to imagine it.
Doesn't seem that secure.
Yeah, the thing is tiny, and they didn't show a physical kind of lock where you would kind of jimmy it open.
It showed Rigel mucking about with the control panel.
Right, an electronic control panel.
So Aaron threw the fork and it bounced off the correct sequence of buttons to unlock it.
Okay.
It was a 1 in a million shot.
He had to throw it a million times.
No, they can only throw it once because then it's out of reach. Or maybe he just has loads of forks.
Well, he only showed us one fork, and he actually stole a million forks.
It's a Marx Brothers skill.
There were a lot of lines in this first episode about, I don't know, inflated importance.
What do you mean?
Stuff with his dad and going after your dream or whatever. I can't remember.
Be your own kind of hero.
Yeah.
The start is like the first 5-10 minutes feels really compressed. The pacing is a bit high.
They really want to get him out into space and into that electromagnetic wave or whatever.
Well, yeah, they want to get to the good bit with the aliens.
Yeah, I can't blame him.
Let's see him being angsty with his dad, or they put in a bit, and then subtly added that his dad was a super astronaut who'd punched the moon.
I'm fine if that's never resolved.
What, his fatherly angst?
Yeah, if he never returns home and his dad just dies.
You have rather strong opinions about his dad, a character who only appeared for a couple minutes, maybe.
Well, yeah, that's why I have no attachment. I don't care if he dies. I don't know anything about him.
It's not likely to be about his dad.
Hey, I haven't seen this show.
Okay.
Maybe this is the only episode that takes place in space, and then he ends up back on Earth.
That would be a surprise.
I would miss all the puppets.
Hey, another wormhole. Well, I guess I'll catch you guys later. That was easy. I thought I'd be up there for years. Sorry, cycles.
Oh, did they say that?
It's something I can't wait to positively rant about. The extents which they go to make this show feel alien are incredible. At least I think so. It feels very alien to me compared to other TV shows.
What you're saying reminds me a lot of how I felt when I watched A Clockwork Orange. How a lot of that specific language was kept in the film, even though it's a lot more difficult to figure out stuff, even with context, than it is in the book. But that's good. It makes it feel different.
Yeah, it's the thing that particularly struck me in this episode is how there's completely different unit systems for everything. I mean, they're conveniently similar to ones we're familiar with, but ambiguous enough that we don't need to start bickering about silly things.
Oh, but we will.
Oh, probably. They used speed was hatch 2 or something, hatch 5. Distance was metras, and he talks about being in the prison for 8 cycles.
Is this why you brought up dialogue? Because you wanted to positively rant about this?
Oh, I'm going to bring up every single unit system they use on this show and make the show boring. Okay, maybe I won't, but I do like how they do that.
It's a really nice touch, and it lends to the world building.
Not just that, when he first gets on board, they're all speaking different languages.
That was an elegant and economical way, as far as screen time, to explain that away. I really liked it. How he's implanted with those things.
They went beyond what they could have done with it. They could have had him be injected before he met the aliens, so we never got to hear what their language was like. Because it's a lot of effort to make sounds for Dargo and sounds for Zan so they sound like different alien languages.
Right.
I mean, there's no real syntactic stuff to it. It's just sounds, but I don't know. They went out of their way to put that in because it makes it seem more alien.
It does, and they could have easily written around it, as you just mentioned. They could have had him implanted as soon as he was on the ship, and then when he says, "Hey, what was that thing you put into me?" "Oh, well, you didn't have the blah blah blah."
Yeah,
birth.
Because they have that conversation anyway.
Right. All these little touches help it feel alien, which is what we need. We want it to feel alien, not like people with just a few things attached to their face on a soundstage.
Making things feel alien is something that a show has to do in the long term.
What do you mean?
Well, it can give you the impression from one episode if it's very dedicated, which I think they've actually pretty much done with this. It just the races and stuff and different species, it can fall a bit flat if they're not developed well.
If you have a bunch of them and they don't feel distinct, then it feels pointless, and you run the risk of, I'm sorry for this word, alienating your audience.
Alienate your aliens?
Make your aliens alienate your non-alien audience.
A lot of shows have aliens where it's just a regular dude, but someone's glued a hot dog to the side of their head.
Yes.
And there's a bunch of them like that, and they're trying to convince you that they're aliens, and it takes a while before, suspension of disbelief kicks in and you're like, okay, fine, they're aliens. I think this show jumps in at the deep end. They just made everything way off from human. They were really trying to diverge.
I felt a real potential for discovery just from this first episode, because it did feel distinct and alien, and I can't wait to see what other stuff they show off.
It feels like the galaxy is waiting for them to, I don't know, rampage through it. what did you think of the music? I know I'm asking a lot of basic stuff, but it's the first episode. We need some kind of grounding.
It didn't stick out to me, but music usually doesn't anyway. But the sound design did. I liked what I was hearing, especially the sound of the ship during, I think they call it Starburst.
Yes.
Yeah, it sounded really cool.
There's a really exciting kind of music track at the start when it's showing stock footage of the space shuttle taking off. That kind of makes me giggle because it's way too exciting. Well, I don't know. A space shuttle launch is kind of exciting in a sort of science way, but it's got this really kind of it's got like a drum beat and stuff like, yeah, we're going to space.
Hey, I would be excited.
It's like 3 minutes into the show, it's hard to really get that pumped up about something. It's clearly stock footage as well, or some sort of B-roll because it's a different resolution.
I did notice that, and I thought, I guess this is what shows were like back then.
It's not that old. It's only 15 years old or something. Maybe closer to 20.
That bit did make it feel dated.
It did, but it is dated, so it is.
So
nothing,
it's allowed
it
to be dated.
It's nothing but a product of its upbringing.
Yep, that's the quote.
Speaking of quotes, we usually round each episode off by selecting a quote, which is your honor to do, and then discussing that. So do you have a quote you've selected for us?
I did, but you just stole it.
Oh, was that it?
That was it.
Did I get it right? Just say it so that we have it verbatim.
I am nothing if not a product of my upbringing.
Whoa, that is exactly what I said.
Good job.
I do get annoyed when people get annoyed at people. This is a sort of second level of annoyance. Okay, so people act in certain ways, and then other people get annoyed at them for doing that when it's just how people are. For example, people get annoyed at young kids being messy. Like, they're a young kid. What do you expect? It happens surprisingly often.
Yeah, that's just silly. On the other side of that, and this gets to the heart of why I don't like the dad, he says, "Son, I can't help being who I am." Yes, you can. That's a choice. You're not stuck being a jerk in your older years. As a kid, sure, you don't know any better. But he's an adult. He could not do things that are bad.
There is a tendency for people to use it as an excuse.
Yeah, you're not fixed.
I didn't clean the house because I'm lazy, remember? This is how lazy I am. I can't help it. I'm just lazy.
I had no choice. But things that do happen in your formative years do echo in your later life.
If you're scared of giraffes, that it would be silly for someone to get annoyed at you for it.
Giraffes are kind of scary. They got those black tongues.
They have black tongues. That's weird.
And scary.
Speaking of things being colors, just a tiny thing I want to point out. Yes, I'm the master of tenuous transitions.
Excellent segue.
John asks if Pilot is the transparent purple guy. It doesn't, because there's that little sort of 3D-ish view screen thing.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
He thought that was actually Pilot.
Yeah, that was a good joke.
It's great they just throw stuff like that in because you don't think of it from that context, that he hasn't actually seen Pilot IRL, so he literally thinks it's this little round purple transparent guy.
That's all he knows. It's all he's seen.
It's also great how no one responds to him. Like, they don't address that. Shall we move onwards to the next episode?
Yes, let's use this episode's gravity in Slingshot to the next one.
Sounds good, but there's a catch.
We don't know the planet's gravity because it's an alien planet, and how did we make that calculation?
He doesn't know the gravity. He was on the planet.
He just felt it and he knew, oh, yep, this is 7.5.
Felt like Earth. He's a scientist. He can work it out. None of them knew what paper was. That didn't seem to exist to them. It's so strange. They just looked at him like, what? What are you talking about? Which is great. That's something you assume that would exist. Why don't they know what paper is? Is that not a thing?
They're so far beyond the need for paper.
But yeah, I guess it's not a thing. Maybe that's like if you just went to someone and said, hey, do you have any parchment? Yeah, I need some vellum to write on. Do you have any vellum? They would just look at you like, what?
I need some leeches to drain the disease out of me.
I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, no, wait, no, I didn't. Yes, we're going to move to the next episode, but this show was broadcast in a slightly mixed up order, and we're going to do the podcast in production order. Most services or DVDs which have Farscape tend to be in broadcast order. So the next episode we are watching is called IET.
Was a reason ever provided for the out of order broadcasting?
Yeah, I'll get to that next time.
Fair enough.
It's nothing major. It might make sense later on. But it's typical TV stuff. Hey, your show is quite well written. Would you mind if we just swapped all the episodes around? So, IET is the next one.
Got it.
All right, let's go.
I'm going.
Okay, bye.
Bye.